Welcome everybody to the January 2023 Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Roundtable, our first one of 2023. I'd like to start off by saying I hope all of our people in California are safe. I hope your families are safe and everything's going well for you guys. I'm super happy to have everybody here. This is going to be a fun roundtable, and I'm looking forward to having to be able to share it with you guys. So we're starting off now. We'll go through our safety moment, and then we've got Leave No Trace traveling trainers, Elena and Jesse, who'll be helping us out, talking about some tips and tricks for our first year camper program's outdoor ethics component. And with that, let's start off with join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please, everybody, mute your audio. Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. So the outdoor code. As an American, I will do my best to be clean in my outdoor manners, be careful with fire, be considerate in the outdoors, and be conservation minded. Okay, Michelle, can you lead us in our safety moment, please?
Yep, since we're talking about first year camper programs, I wanted to touch on basic first aid needs. Just because I think for a lot of times we go through these very quickly with our scouts and we don't review them. But as many of us know, taking care of a small problem is easy. Letting a small problem become a big problem takes a lot more effort. So for today's, we want to do the most common injuries reported at our camps are cuts, abrasions, and punctures. So if our first year scouts or even our older scouts know how to handle these very simple problems, they can save a lot later on. Next slide. So cuts are the most common form of injury that we have. Think about our woodworking tools like our pocket knife. We've all been there when the knife slips for the first time. Abrasions, the Gaga ball pit comes to mind. Falling, scraping a knee, the untied shoelace that sends the scout skidding down the gravel road, or puncture wounds, leather work, or getting a splinter on some of our benches and picnic tables. These are common things that, again, if they taken care of right away, they stay small. If they're not taken care of and they're found day 4, day 5 after they've been in the lake or the river or continued to cause those abrasions, it can become a serious one. Also important is knowing when we need to file that incident report. There is in the BSA outdoor programs, if you pull up safety moments, you can get a PDF copy of the incident information report. As an adult leader, your senior patrol leaders should have a copy of that in your first aid kit, just so that if there is an issue that needs to be reported, it's all right there and you can fill it out when it happens. For the most part, though, you need to report injuries, illnesses, and incidents during scouting activities or on council-owned properties that require the intervention of a medical provider beyond basic scout-rendered first aid. So if your first-year scout can put a Band-Aid on it, you don't have to report it. If you have to go to the medical tent or to the emergency room to have stitches put in it, you got to report it. So think about those. And last slide for me, Paul. Minor wounds are treated the same and involve simple techniques taught in all levels of our programs, from Cub Scouts to Ventures. Practice makes perfect. So how do you clean a wound? I've seen lots of scouts just slap a Band-Aid on a dirty wound and hope that for the best. How to treat it? Put on that small amount of antibiotic cream to speed healing and prevent infection. Especially if you're like me, that our scouts swim in a river. and not in a chlorinated pool, making sure that those abrasions and small cuts get cleaned after they've been in there. Prevents a lot of bacterial growth and unneeded infection opportunities. And make sure you're covering the wound. A clean bandage is all that most of the type needs. Moleskin for those hot spots, a Band-Aid for that simple cut. And make sure that your scouts know what should be in their first aid kit and that it should be going with them all the time. If you're going out on a trek, make sure you have your crew first aid kit. If you're going out on a camp out or to summer camp, make sure you have the bigger first aid kit. And for how long that's going to be and for how many people you have to do. So with that, remember, keep it small, keep it clean. With that, that is your safety moment for tonight.
Thank you, Michelle. And with this, I get to introduce you all to Elena and Jesse. Elena and Jesse are Leave No Trace traveling trainers. Those of us who were able to be at the conference in November got to meet them in person. And a little bit about them is they're from, Jesse's from New York and Elena's from Cincinnati. So they're from all over. They've been traveling trainers since last year. So they're wrapping up their first full year of traveling trainers. Right now, they're out in California working to stay dry, and they'll be heading out soon. Over the last year, they have been all over the country, from East Coast to West Coast, from Georgia to Maine, and lots of time in their Subaru. So with that, Elena and Jesse, can you please take over?
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the lovely introduction, Paul, and good to see everyone. Maybe some familiar faces. I'm looking in the chat if there's anyone we did run into at the convention last year. Hello again to you all, and for everyone we're meeting for the first time. Nice to meet you guys. Like Paul said, my name is Jesse, and I'm here with my partner Elena. We are the traveling trainers. And so what that means is that we live out of our Subaru, we travel the country, and our job is to bring Leave No Trace education and outreach wherever we go and wherever it's needed most. So today, I'm going to kind of jump right into our little workshop we have on how we like to bring some of our favorite activities and games or workshops or teachable moments surrounding Leave No Trace and how we like to integrate that into our youth education programs. So just to give a kind of brief icebreaker, we're going to try to make this a little bit interactive as much as we can in the chat. I know, Paul, you kind of already beat me to the punch on where are you joining us from here, but we do have another question. If you guys want to put in chat, any of your favorite ways to get outside? I know Elena and I can share. So we are calling in today from just outside of LA, and especially in the winter, some of our favorite ways to get outside is to go skiing and snowboarding. That's a kind of big winter sports activity that we like to do.
Although it's been pretty cold lately, but in warmer seasons, I know I really enjoy backpacking up and down the East Coast primarily, but maybe I'll get a chance on the western part of the US here this summer.
Yeah, so I see hiking, kayaking.
Summer camp also has a sweet spot in my heart.
Awesome. Backpacking, watching football. Yes, same here. Paddling, nice. Mountain biking. I've just been getting into mountain biking myself a little bit. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys for sharing. And so again, we're going to do some activities in the chat or kind of some interactive portions. I will ask just for like a logistics standpoint that we kind of keep questions in the chat and keep our mics muted for the most part, just for pure numbers of people in here. It could get a little bit craziness.
And there will be an opportunity to ask questions at the end, and we can answer everything that kind of comes to mind then.
Definitely. So just to give a quick rundown on our little workshop for today. Basically, we're going to be kind of really doing a deep dive on some of our favorite activities that we like to use, specifically how we set them up and why we chose them and why we like to teach them and kind of what our key takeaways from some of these activities are. Specifically, we're going to be kind of touching on the why of Leave No Trace. So kind of that ethic portion of Leave No Trace and how that is kind of a continuous theme throughout all of the lessons and activities that we're going to be bringing you today. Some of the specific activities include, the Leave No Trace hand signs we'll be going over, among a bunch of other activities. And then finally, we'll be leaving you guys with some of the kind of key resources that you can kind of take from here and build out your curriculums or your teachable moments from there.
All right, well, to start, why are we all here? And it's really because we believe that there's no substitute for nature, and we want everyone to enjoy being outside, not only now, but for years and generations to come. So we are Leave No Trace. Jesse and I are a traveling team coming from this national organization that wants to make people the solution to this kind of conservation problem and really empower people to protect the outdoors. And so we will ask you to briefly type in the chat, what does Leave No Trace mean to you? It could be whatever comes to mind when you hear that phrase. I know this phrase is deeply rooted in the Scouts and scouting culture, but it can be explained many different ways, and it definitely means different things to different people too.
Okay, I see. Leaving the place better than you found it. That's a great one I love, definitely. Pack it in, pack it out. Awesome. Take only pictures, leave only footprints. Camping like a ninja.
Yeah.
That's a great one.
I like too how the answers to what Leave No Trace means to people might depend on where you're coming from too, the types of impacts that you see on a daily basis, maybe enjoyment without degradation. Those are all really great answers. So as we go forth, we're really going to be talking about how to teach what Leave No Trace means to other people. And to us, it's kind of a way of thinking about interacting with the outdoors in a way that minimizes our impacts and saves this space and preserves it for the enjoyment of others for years to come. So we do that through these 3 pillars: science and research, training for all, and then vigorous stewardship. And these kind of come in an order. So we prioritize science and research to give people the best information possible. We care about staying current with the recreational ecology research. And then we want to convey that to people through training. And the hope is that through training people, they can then adapt what we're saying to their own audiences and pass that on to others through vigorous stewardship. And so we're excited to be here with you all today and share some activities that we do to then make this kind of science and research engaging to our youth audiences.
Definitely. So, regardless of what your specific definition of Leave No Trace is, we like to think of it as kind of a spectrum. And that's kind of in contrast to, a defined code or set of rules that one must follow. Leave No Trace really kind of has this gray area of, even when you have, few impacts, as you see on this picture on the left, you still can see a trail. So you still see, signs of human activity. And just by existing on this earth, we are having an impact on it, and we need to kind of acknowledge that. We're not all even, not all of our impacts are these kind of, landfill, horrible, trash-filled rivers, like the significant impacts picture you can see there as well. And so in our teaching efforts, we like to really kind of spread our efforts as wide as we can and try to just push people towards that fewer impact sides and to push as many people towards that fewer impact sides as we can, as opposed to trying to kind of focus our efforts on only a small group of people and just making them kind of leave no trace experts or ninjas, like I saw in the chat. We're not going to be able to make every single person a leave no trace ninja. We want to make everyone a little bit better and leave no trace. And we believe that that will have the kind of largest overall impact on our outdoor spaces. With that, we like to kind of think about the why in Leave No Trace. So the why are we doing the things that we're doing? So I know in scouting, there's a lot of focus on the specific skills that you need and how you do specific things. And what we try to kind of bring to the table here is more on that ethics side, that why, I know how to clean up my campfire, but why should I clean up my campfire? Why should I clean up after myself? And kind of instilling that, a deep understanding of that is how we feel we shift a skill or knowledge into what is now a behavior, something that I'm going to do again and again and kind of really instill into the core of who I am. And so by kind of focusing on that through our education, we can kind of bring that into, scouts at a young age. And I think that's so key for us to do. So with that, we can kind of jump into some of our activities we have here. And the first, I'm sure many of you, if not all of you, are familiar with this, but these are the core 7 principles of Leave No Trace that kind of define what our curriculum is all about. And, the first step in, learning Leave No Trace is to learn what these principles are. And to do that, to kind of teach and communicate what the 7 principles of Leave No Trace are, we like to use the hand signs. And so these are kind of a mnemonic device or a hand device that can help be used to communicate them in a fun and effective way that kind of ingrains them more in your memory. So just in case anyone is not already aware of the hand signs of Leave No Trace, and that's totally okay if you're not, we're going to go through them right now and kind of give you guys a rundown of all 7 of these principles. So if you guys want to join along with me, I'm just going to do a quick rundown. So for principle number 1, plan ahead and prepare. So I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to think about what I'm going to bring on my trip, and I'm going to prepare. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to make a defined plan. Principle number 2, I have my number 2. I'm going to take my arm and I'm going to travel and then set up my camp on a durable surface. Then I have principle number 3. So dispose of waste properly. First way you can think about that is it makes a W for waste. But then I am going to take my little shovel. I'm going to either dig a cat hole or I'm going to kind of scoop my trash and put it into my trash bin. Finally, next we have principle number 4. So you're actually going to do 2 fingers on each hand, your pointer finger and your thumb. And these make L's for leave what you find, but also you can make a little camera and you take only pictures, leave only footprints. I saw that in one of the definitions. Then we have principle number 5, which is minimize campfire impacts. So you have 5 and you have your little campfire like here. Then we have principle number 6, which is respect wildlife. And so there's a couple of different ways you can actually do this. And maybe you want to switch it up depending on where you're from. One way you can do it is 3 on each finger. You do a moose. You could do 3 here for gills, or you can do a thumb and 5, and you can make a turkey, maybe if you're on the East Coast. And so you can kind of get creative with that one. And then finally, principle number 7 is be considerate of others. And so for that, you have 7 fingers, you got a wave and a peace sign. Or now that we're on the West Coast, you have a shaka, hang loose for the surfers out there. And so this can be a really great way to just kind of give that kind of foundational understanding of what the 7 principles are, whether you're kind of going for that scout rank of being able to repeat the 7 principles from memory. This can be a great mnemonic device to kind of help build that education there. 6 is also the rule of thumb. That's a great one, Lillian. Thank you. And we're going to go over that as well a little bit later. All right, so we're going to now jump into kind of different activities surrounding each of these. The first being principle number 1, plan ahead and prepare.
So often when working with youth, a lot of the plan ahead and prepare phase lies on the shoulders of the adults. But we love to see youth take ownership of this packing phase or thinking about what is coming ahead of them and coming as prepared as possible. And really this principle is what then equips us to minimize our impact down the road or once we're on site. So generally, one of the best ways that we can plan ahead and prepare is by bringing the proper gear. And in order to do that, or think about what gear to bring, we have an activity to get us thinking about what items are most useful when going on trips in the outdoors. So this is called the 10 Essentials game. Many of you might be familiar with it, but I have a slide coming up with a lot of different objects. And the idea of this game is that given a collection of objects, can you or your group decipher which items might be more important than others? So we have kind of a slew of different objects, and let's see. And we turn the question to you real quick. Out of these objects shown, can you pick out which of these fall under that 10 essentials list? There are 10 items that are essential. And you can take a moment and write in the chat maybe one of those objects that you believe is part of this list. We'll see if we can make a list of all.
How quick can we build our 10 essentials list here with some experts?
Now, some of these objects are representative of a larger category. So you can phrase them what makes sense to you kind of thing.
Okay, I already see first aid, shelter, fire starter,
matches,
multi-tool, water,
knife,
light source, extra layers, proper clothing. I see navigation or map. Okay, we're looking for two more. What are we missing
the
here?
dog.
Yeah, is it the dog? Food.
Food, clothes.
And sun protection. I see it there.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a tricky
It's hard
picture.
Hard to read. But yeah, you got it. So how do you do? You can self-evaluate, see if you personally got all 10 of them picked out. But this game can take on many forms. So the way that we do this in different or outdoor spaces is that we like to have these objects maybe as physical objects scattered in a field, for example, or in a grab bag. And each individual can kind of pick an item out of the grab bag and then say to the group their reasoning why this might be essential or non-essential for their trip. Or you could have these items scattered in the field and it's a relay race and they have to run and get those 10 essential items faster than their competing group. These are dependent on the type of trip that you're leading. So maybe if you are going on a day trip, this essentials list can be reduced or adapted based on what you want to convey. But this activity is really fun.
Yeah, so essentially what you need to do a 10 essentials game is the 10 essentials themselves and then a bunch of decoy items. So we like to throw in, anything from books to funny things like we have an inflatable flamingo float. So depending on the age group, you can kind of make it fun that way. And really the point of this game, you can use it as a game to get people running around if you're doing a relay race, first team to, run down and pick the 10 correct items from the pile, wins. Or more in that debate style where we take a bag and we, go person to person, ask them to pick an item out and, put it in our essentials or non-essentials, category. The point is to kind of get that discussion going. So, if someone picks out, a sunscreen and they put it in the non-essentials. We want to give an opportunity for discussion, maybe dissenting opinion, and have, the scouts discuss between themselves whether they think this is an essential item or a non-essential item and why, and kind of have them, teach themselves in that manner and kind of build the full list through there. And through that, we get a lot of great discussion with that, along with that running around and having some fun and laughs if we're putting in some crazy decoy items there as well. So that's a really great one to kind of get started off with the 10 essentials.
Nice. So the next principle that we'll share game regarding is the travel and camp on durable surfaces. So at some level of scouting, it's important for scouts to know why it's important to hike on trails or durable surfaces, and then what those surfaces are. So one game that we use to teach these concepts is called Durable Surface Hopscotch. That when set up looks something like this. Now, we use cards that have surfaces on the other side of them, and we'll make kind of a field of hopscotch cards. So in this game, we have a starting area, a finish line, and then an array of mysterious cards with surfaces underneath. And one by one, the scouts will uncover additional cards and try to make a path to the finish line. So they'll start on the start line, and each time they uncover a new card, they have the opportunity to share with the group why or why not they think that surface is durable or non-durable. So ferns, maybe not so durable. And if they end up on a surface that is not durable, they'll go back to the back of the line, and the next person will start on their path. So let's say the second person uncovers a trail, then they can explain why they think that is durable or not durable, and then they can move forward or diagonally, or side to side. So moss, not so durable. So that person would go to the back of the line, and then the next person can step on the trail, and then maybe they try to uncover the next card that ends up being flowers. And this game is really, again, to spur that conversation and that starting to think about why or why not you might not want to step on flowers, but also gives the challenge of accomplishing this task of making it to the finish line. So as we go along, you start to uncover more and more cards, and we have a lot of options, but you can also throw in surfaces that are more applicable to the type of area that maybe you're preparing to take a trip to, and then eventually make it to the finish line. So I'll uncover all of the cards here.
And this is a great activity to, help fulfill that requirement of being able to understand what a durable surface is, and to provide some specific examples of what is a durable surface and what isn't, and to kind of being able to explain why as well.
Yeah, so take a moment and see if you guys can find a path on durable surfaces from start to finish.
Yep.
This game is available at Bigfoot's playlist, just like Paul mentioned in the chat. So the cards are available to print out, and if you don't have access to it already, I think it should be open source and downloadable.
Yeah.
Another thing to mention about this game is that in some instances, the surfaces might be somewhat durable. And so it is important to start talking about, well, how do we prioritize maybe walking on dry grass if it's not rainy, but wet grass is less durable. So if we have a better alternative in cases of rain, then we might want to choose that.
Yeah. And all you really need to play this game is no cards that you're able to write a surface on and flip them over, and you can array, as many or as little as you want. kind of in a grid formation, depending on the number of kids you're working with. So you can really scale it up or down, and you don't need, it's nice to have the printouts as well. They're not absolutely necessary if you want to kind of play the game on a budget or kind of in low fidelity mode there. So moving along, our next kind of key principle is dispose of waste properly. And there's really a variety of different kind of requirements in scouting to understand how you dispose of your waste properly. And we have kind of 2 quick activities that convey the why and the how of disposing of waste. And the first one is, would you drink it? So this is a game surrounding safely disposing of gray water, really, but relating to how we're cleaning up after a meal per se, or doing our dishes, or brushing our teeth while I camp out, things like that. So to explain this, we do have a video, and Paul, I might ask you to take over and share this video if you're able to.
All right.
Hi, I'm Erin from the Leave No Trace Center for Outdoor Ethics, and today we're playing the game, Would You Drink It? Today on Would You Drink It, we're testing out how 3 common camp products affect our water sources. First up is something in everyone's beach bag, sunscreen. Sunscreen is often used and worn near water sources. Once the swimsuits come out, so does the sunscreen. So let's ask the question, would you drink it? When purchasing sunscreen, try to stick with a reef-safe version. Before swimming, let your sunscreen soak in, or wipe off residue with the wilderness wipe. Next up, we have bad breath's worst enemy, toothpaste. Nobody wants a stinky smile while camping, and a creek can be an easy place to rinse your toothbrush. But let's ask the question, would you drink it? Try going without toothpaste. It can be just as effective. And if you really have to spit, do it 200 feet away from water sources. Last up is the 3-in-1 dishwashing, body scrubbing, shampooing, biodegradable soap. Biodegradable soap is used for all kinds of camp chores. Often, these happen near a water source. So let's ask the question, would you drink it? While biodegradable soap is a better option than traditional soap, it's still not something we want to put in our water sources. Anytime you're using it, make sure you're 200 feet or 70 big steps away from water. Thank you so much for playing, and remember, water sources help sustain our lives and the lives of all this. Let's work together to keep them clean.
You can take back over on the screen. But yeah, Would You Drink It is a really fun one. Just for the fact that, kids love to mix stuff in water and making potions and things like that. And this is kind of an opportunity to do that in an educational kind of manner. Elena and I like to even kind of bring that further, because you're always going to have, when you're doing this practice, you're always going to have, one kid who's going to be like, yeah, I'll drink that. Like, I'm not scared. And so you can kind of keep escalating it. We have, brown food coloring to simulate human waste as well, to kind of hit out home on that, the importance of, not leaving that in, less than 200 feet away from a water source. And so we'll put that into our, concoction as well. And then ask, would you still drink it? And that will really kind of knock out any stragglers that you have as a pro tip there. But yeah, it's a really fun one. And kind of the key takeaway from this one that I really like is it focuses on empathy. It focuses on putting you in, the place of not only, a person who might be swimming or having to drink out of the stream, but also the animals that are, this is their only source of water. So this is kind of important to, again, understand the why of, dispose of waste properly, and kind of feel that ethic of, okay, yes, now I understand. I should do this because I don't want to have to drink this kind of water. And so another activity that kind of our friend Erin in the video mentioned is, making sure that we are disposing of our gray water or our human waste at least 200 feet away from a water source. So we have another kind of little activity that we like to do surrounding this. just to give kind of a frame of reference for 200 feet, because it is somewhat hard to define. If you have to just, tell someone this is how far 200 feet is, most people don't know unless you have a measuring stick. Yeah. So I'd actually like to see if anyone has a good method in the chat. How would you describe how far 200 feet is? And we have some ways that work. One way is, if you're a hockey fan, it's the size of an NHL hockey rink is 200 feet. Also, as you can see in this picture, we can show you, it's about the size of 4 semi trucks lined up.
The Muppets.
Yeah, 70 big
The
steps is a
steps
classic
is-
one as well.
Yeah.
But we kind of like to take that 70 big steps and make it a little bit more personal with this game. So what we like to do is I have a rope or a measuring stick that is 200 feet, and we'll lay it out with some kids, and we'll have them all actually do a walk of 200 feet to get a frame of reference for that is. And while they're doing that walk, they are counting out their steps. So now, typically with youth, our generic answer for 200 feet is 100 big steps, actually, because obviously they have smaller steps, but that can really vary wildly from person to person. So what we do is by them counting out their steps, they then get their own personal number that is, more personalized to them, something that they'll be more likely to remember. And so, they'll be comparing it. We'll say, oh, I got it in, 98 steps. Oh, I did it in 95. So you'll have that kind of discussion, and that will kind of hammer home, now I know my personal number is 95 steps. So next time I have to do it, I will count 95 steps or something of that nature. To make it more of a game, we also, when we're trying to get energy out, we'll do a walking 200 feet and then a running 200 feet as well. If you sometimes when you got to go, you got to go. So you got to run. So it's also fun to know your running number if you have to run 200 feet, because will have a kind of bigger strides on that. So that's fun to do as well. If you're looking for ways to get the energy levels out a little bit, which is always helpful there. Great. So that's kind of 2 activities that we like to do for disposing of waste properly. The next one is respect wildlife. So obviously this is kind of a principle that's, there are a wide variety of ways that we respect wildlife, relating to, how close we are getting to them, how we're storing our food, and our trash, disposing of our trash as well. So it kind of ties into some of the previous, principles as well. But we're going to go through one game that kind of touches on a variety of aspects of how we can respect wildlife. And this is called the Animal Impacts game. And so in this game, we give each scout or each kid 3 cards. 1 card relating to a scenario revolving food, 1 revolving a scenario involving water, and 1 revolving a scenario involving shelter. And before we do anything, we have, every member who's playing this game pick an animal, pick their favorite animal. And that's, the animal that they're becoming. So if I say, I'm going to be a bison, and Elena, what are you going to be?
Oh, I would be a turtle.
Okay, so I'm a bison and Elena is a turtle. So we're both animals out here. And our objective as animals is to just survive. We are wanting to live and be free and enjoy our outdoor areas. Now, each of these cards, we will kind of go through and we'll say, these are 3 things that happened during the night. And the question is, will you survive the night? So there could be a good thing or a bad thing on these cards. And if 2 bad things happen to me, I unfortunately won't survive the night. And we will kind of continue going in different rounds until we have maybe 1 last person standing or no one has survived the night. So an example of this is, the first card is a green card. So we'll say, okay, everyone will go through the circle and we'll all read out what our green cards are. So these are, I have here, campers left their food sitting out, and you have hot dogs for dinner. So it's now up to me to say, okay, is that impacting me? Is that respecting wildlife, or is that something that is harming me as a bison here? And so I think that might be a strike 1 for me. It's maybe not part of my natural diet. So that's one bad thing that has already happened to me. So everyone will then go through and read their green card that's related to something about their food. Next, for people, everyone should still be alive at this point. We'll go into our next card, our blue cards, revolving around water. So for me, you can see I have hikers followed a proper waste burial techniques, and my water source is clean. So again, I will kind of explain to the group, okay, I think that is respecting wildlife because they did follow the proper techniques, and I think that I am okay on this one. So that's a good one for me. We'll kind of continue around the circle, see if everyone is as lucky as me. At some point, some people might have not survived the night. So, if something bad happened to the water supply, people didn't dispose of their gray water 200 feet away, they might unfortunately not survive the night. And then we'll move on to the final card. So revolving my shelter. So I go back home only to find that my shelter has been destroyed by humans gathering firewood. So unfortunately, that is strike 2 for me. That's a thumbs down on that one. And I have not survived the night. And Elena might have survived the night. Probably she hasn't. And so the kind of key thing to take away here is how easy it is or how challenging it can be for animals to not survive the night. And how common it is. So most people, unfortunately, will not survive the night, but you kind of keep reiterating the game. You hand out new cards to the next round and see if they survive the next night. And this is, again, just like, the Would You Drink It game, a game that focuses around empathy. So it puts you in the position of being that animal, it makes it more personal. I picked out, I have my own character, I have my bison now, and unfortunately, I have not survived the night. So that, again, kind of hits home on that why it's so important for us to dispose of waste properly there.
And this is a good game, again, to incorporate various different impacts that are relevant to the space that you might be in. You could make it a camp-oriented animals impact game, or it could be a backcountry-oriented animals impact game. And so the categories kind of stay the same: food, water, shelter, but what's actually written on the cards is up for interpretation, and you're able to make your own cards, maybe of impacts that you or your troop have seen, and then go from there to make it as relatable and as relevant to the campers as possible.
Yeah, that's a really great point, is that for all of these games, making them as personalized to the specific lessons or the specific environments that you are in are going to be the most effective. And this is a really easy one to do that for, and a really fun one to do that for as well. Great. So we're going to move on to one more game revolving respecting wildlife. And this is, someone mentioned this earlier, this is the thumb trick. So Elena, do you want to really quickly run down what the thumb trick is?
So yes, an easy way to engage anyone really in the moment or in preparation for being outside. This is the thumb trick. So I encourage you all to try this out at your seat. And the way that the thumb trick works is you stick your thumb up with your arm straight and close one eye. And the object is to be able to cover up the entirety, the rule of thumb, the thumb trick, yes. Cover up the entirety of the animal shown before you, or the animal that you see out in the wild. And so see if you can cover up, say, the bison with your thumb. If you can, then you are a safe distance from the bison. But if you cannot, and you start seeing parts of the bison outside of your thumb, for your safety and the animal's well-being, we want to step back to the point that we can cover up the entirety of the animal. So maybe you can cover up, say, the birds in the bottom of this slide, but the bison, you're too close. Well, even if there are or with groups of animals, so like a mother and its young, or a herd of bighorn sheep, we want to be able to cover up the group of animals as well. And we especially don't want to get stuck in the middle of a mother and its young, or in the middle of a herd. And so with groups of animals, we want to be even further away. So by covering up the whole group with our one thumb, that's a good way to know that we're a safe distance. And by using the thumb trick, or the rule of thumb, we're actively engaging with the wildlife, but from a safe distance. So it's a really fun way to feel like we're sharing a space with them, but also giving them enough space.
Yeah, and that's a really great point. I think this is definitely one that you would want to kind of pull out while going on a hike, or in a place where you can kind of put it into practice. And so it gives you kind of that immediate satisfaction of practicing it and putting it into play in a lot of different animals that you might see on your hike. And again, like Elena said, you're interacting with them while maintaining that respectful distance, which is kind of important for kids, especially. Great. All right, so moving on to one of our final activities.
Yeah, so we have one last activity that we'll leave you with. And this again is a video that if Paul would be so
Let's
kind.
see if I got it this time.
Yeah, I believe in you.
This is kind of a culminating activity, so it can tie in a bunch of different educational aspects into a very.
Hi, my name is TJ, and I am a Subaru Leave No Trace traveling trainer. And today I'm going to cover the game OK No Way, which is a great game to play with kids. For OK No Way, all you need is an open space, like a gymnasium or a field, and items to mark safe zones, like cones or a rope. Set up your space with 2 safe zones on either side and stand in the middle. You'll break your group up into 2 teams. Have the 2 teams line up shoulder to shoulder facing each other, about 3 to 4 feet apart. You will have 2 teams. One is team OK and one is team No Way. If you say an OK situation, team OK will run and chase team No Way to their safe zone. Now, if anyone on that team gets tagged, they join the other team. Now, if you say a No Way situation, team No Way will run and chase team OK to their safe zone. And if anyone gets tagged, they join the other team. Now here are some good OK and No Way situations.
Right, and these are also, kind of similar scenarios that you could use for the previous game as well, the animal impact game. But again, we really recommend kind of coming up with your own fun ones and personalizing it to the scenario that you guys are in, or the types of animals or the types of lessons that you're looking to kind of hit home on there. All right. So that was the activities that we had today. Really quickly, I'm just going to give, looks like we have one last reminder of the 7 principles. So I'm just going to give a quick rundown of the hand sign just one last time to make sure everyone remembers it. So again, remember, number 1 is plan ahead and prepare. Number 2 is travel and camp on durable surfaces. Number 3 is dispose of waste properly. Number 4, leave what you find. Number 5, minimize campfire impacts. Number 6, respect wildlife. And number 7, be considerate of others. And I love to hear any remixes or variations that people ever have on this. So you do have one, love to hear about it. But those are kind of the standard ones that we go with. And they're, again, kind of the most important thing that we can use here. Now, to kind of leave you guys, we want to make sure that you have all the resources that you could need. And so Paul has these slides and we'll be disseminating these, but these are kind of a bunch of links that have kind of a lot of the key resources. So we have the Youth Educator Library, and that's on our YouTube page, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all of videos, like the kind of examples that we've shown there.
as well as on the website.
As well as on the website. So we have, both on YouTube and on our website. We have our Peak, which is our Promoting Environmental Awareness in Kids, a tool. And of course, Bigfoot's Playbook, which Paul already linked in chat, which has all these games in there as well. And among other tools as well here, and our social media pages, which have all kind of additional information and things like that. So really quick, just give a quick thank you to all our partners who allowed us to be here there. And with whatever remaining time we have, if we do have any remaining time, we'd like to open it up to any questions you guys have. But I'd like to just pop up or promote our email, which is, if you can't think of a question now or don't have a question now, this can be for use in the future. We want to be here as a resource for you. So if you are trying to come up with a game or an activity for a specific lesson and you can't think of something, shoot us an email and we're here to kind of be of service to you guys. But other than that, thank you guys so much.
Yeah, I'll leave our contact information up there, but Dave asked a couple of questions and our Subaru does not look like that in the Okay No Way video anymore. That was a very retro Subaru and we may or may not be jealous of them and their cool branding. Ours is white and you can kind of see it in the photo here actually. And the eighth principle discussion around an eighth potential principle.
Great question.
Is it's not part of our core 7 principles, but we'll sometimes talk about an additional principle being that regarding social media. So how to respectfully and consciously promote outdoor spaces or share information about outdoor spaces using social media. And yeah, how to go about geotagging, what geotagging is and what impacts it has. So officially, we are not anti-geotagging, so we don't like saying, no, you can't do this on social media, because often it's the only way that people find out about these outdoor spaces. So it's how people are welcomed into types of recreation that maybe they haven't learned about before. But regarding geotagging and just generally sharing information about the outdoors and locations online, we're working increasingly to share with others the impacts that it does have. So we want people to know that geotagging can lead to increased impacts and increased visitation in very consolidated spaces, and that can have very negative effects. So if we are geotagging, it's helpful to do so while also sharing relevant and important information about how to minimize your impacts in that space. And that might mean telling people not to go here because it is experiencing impacts that the land managers aren't equipped for, or finding alternative spaces. But we don't want to gatekeep the outdoors by not sharing things on social media.
I think a good way to think about this is, it's very hard to stop an information stream. Social media is a stream of information that unfortunately or fortunately we can't plug. So what we want to do instead is add to the information stream and do so in a positive manner. So a couple ways that we like to do that is, if we are going to post on social media, we want to, we have an opportunity to write a caption. We want to, include some of the principles that might be relevant to that, or a discussion on that as well. We want to think about the images that we're portraying. So, if I'm taking a picture of a beautiful sunset, maybe I also want to upload a picture of what the parking lot looked like at that time.
The line of traffic.
How is the traffic getting in there? And making sure that people understand the full picture. So I'm not just kind of painting this picturesque, idealistic, or unrealistic portrait of what's happening, and kind of promoting that as well. Now, a great thing about social media is the kind of democratization of it. So if someone else is doing, a posting and they're not doing this, it's not hard for you to add on to their, to comment onto it, to kind of add that educational aspect. We don't want to be disparaging or negative in our comments, but adding comments posts that are educational in nature is another great way to do that. So that's kind of how we think about kind of adding to that social media, stream of information in a positive manner.
Yeah, and
So
I see
that's
that
a little bit of
that
tangent there.
Dave linked to the social media guidance
Yes.
part of the website. That's a great resource.
So it's a big portion of Leave No Trace. It's a growing portion of Leave No Trace. It hasn't reached that official principal status, but that doesn't mean that it's not a critical aspect that we really need to be educating about as well. But let's see, we want to make sure we get other questions as well.
Yeah, Dave O'Leary also asked if the Youth Educator newsletter is still distributed. And that's something that I don't know personally.
Yeah, we will have to check with you on that and we can get back to you. Unfortunately, we don't know off the top of our heads on that.
Yeah.
Apologies for that.
Otherwise, if there are no further questions, again, feel free to email us or reach out to Paul, who has our contact. And we'll leave you with our outgoing message that we are thankful that you spent time with us tonight, and it is going to take all of us to share this message. And it's not something that we need a few people doing perfectly, but we're excited that hopefully as many people as possible will be practicing Leave No Trace imperfectly.
Yeah, and so the things that you do are so important, and we're so thankful for kind of your role there. So thank you guys so much for having us again. And I think that's all we got for tonight.
Thank you so much. That was great. Really, I really enjoyed it. So let me take back the screen here. There. The green box went in the right place, so I think I got it that time. So thanks, everybody. With that, we'll move on to announcements portion of the roundtable here. But first thing I want to ask right off the bat too is we count on your input. Give us some ideas for what you want to hear in future roundtables. Shoot us an email if you would, or better yet, you can go to the feedback page, and there's a place on there where you can put in some suggestions you've got for future roundtables. We've gotten some great ones from you, and I'm looking to get some more here. Always appreciate them. Also appreciate your feedback. So the more we hear from you, the better we can tune these to be productive and what you guys need to get your jobs done out in the field. Just to put up a quick coming soon here on this, the National Outdoor Conference for Outdoor Programs Conference will be this fall. We should have more information on that next month to present to you, but just want to tell you about the dates so you can set those dates aside for the conference. Also, for those of you who are looking to take a Master Educator course or know someone who is, please let them know about these courses that we've got scheduled so far this year. We expect to have one more course at the summit as well. But we don't have the details on that one yet. They'll be posted as soon as we have them. The link to that post is right there on the screen, and we'll share that later as well. If going to the conference is going to be a financial burden on you, please be aware that we do have scholarships, the Dan Howell scholarships. Information on them is at the bottom of the slide here. So we do want people to take advantage of them. We want to get anybody who wants to be a master educator the opportunity to be one. And with that, I'm going to move into my favorite time here. I'm going to pull out my Leopold. And I've got one reading, a short one this time. And this is from November. I know it's January, but we can read November and January. These oak windfalls are, of course, diseased trees. Without diseases, few oaks would break off, and hence few grouse would have down tops to hide in. So if you think what he's talking about, what was a disaster for that tree was critical shelter habitat for some wildlife. So challenge I'd like to give you all and take these out to everybody you see too is go out when you're outside and look for damaged trees or other plants and figure out what caused the damage and figure out how would animals be impacted by that damage. So the picture right there on the screen that you see is one I just took this afternoon. I was out walking in the park near my home here, and there's a down tree, and I look at it and there's all the birds hiding in there. It's giving shelter to those birds right now. So go out and pay attention to these things and share that with the people you're with. It's a great way to get in touch with your natural world. And with that, I think we're coming to a conclusion here. I hope to see you guys all come back next month we're going to talk about conservation at BSA's high adventure camps.